The hallway smelled of coffee, sweat, and nerves. Bright lights hummed, too bright, too unforgiving, and every sound seemed louder than it should be. A stagehand brushed past him without a glance. Somewhere nearby, another contestant laughed confidently, surrounded by family, cameras, and hype. Ramon stood alone. His hands trembled as they gripped a weathered suitcase, the same brown suitcase he'd carried across oceans, continents, and decades of disappointment. Inside it was a faded white jumpsuit, stitched and restitched by his own hands, and a pair of scuffed blue suede shoes he had polished the night before like a ritual prayer. People had laughed at him for years. "Elvis is dead," they said. "Grow up. You're too old for dreams." Ramon was 47 years old. A janitor. A widower. A father who had failed, at least in his own eyes, to give his son the life he'd promised, and tonight, this was his last chance. Ramon's story didn't begin in Hollywood. It began in a tin-roof neighborhood outside Cebu City, Philippines, where rain leaked through ceilings and electricity flickered like hope, present one moment, gone the next. As a boy, he would sit beside his father's broken radio, waiting for one song in particular. When it came on, "Can't Help Falling in Love," the world felt kinder. His mother would smile. His father would stop coughing for a few minutes. And Ramon would close his eyes and pretend he was standing on a grand stage, singing not to survive, but to heal. But dreams don't pay hospital bills. When his father died, Ramon quit school to work. When his mother fell ill, he worked harder. When love found him, soft and unexpected, he married young and promised her everything. Then cancer took her away. Just like that, left alone with an 8-year-old son and a drawer full of unpaid bills, Ramon did what millions of others do. He survived. He took any job he could. He sang at weddings for free meals. He cleaned floors in silence. And every night, after his son fell asleep, he pulled out the jumpsuit and remembered who he used to be. Music wasn't his dream anymore. It was his medicine. Years passed. His son grew older and more distant. One night, after a long shift mopping hallways in Manila, Ramon overheard two co-workers talking about America's Got Talent. One of them joked, "Imagine if Elvis showed up from the Philippines." They laughed. Ramon didn't. That night, he borrowed a phone, recorded himself singing "If I Can Dream," and sent it into the void. He didn't tell his son. He didn't tell anyone. He expected nothing. When the acceptance email came, he stared at it for 10 minutes, afraid it would disappear. But his son saw it. "You're going to America, to sing?" his son asked, half embarrassed, half confused. "Yes," Ramon said quietly. "For Elvis?" "For hope." They didn't hug. They didn't cry. But when Ramon left, his son slipped something into the suitcase. A folded note. "Make them listen, Papa." The producer called his name, Ramon de la Cruz. "You're up." The stage curtain parted, and suddenly he was standing under lights brighter than the Cebu sun. The judges sat high and powerful. Simon Cowell, poker-faced. Sophia smiling politely. Howie leaning forward. Heidi curious but skeptical. The massive screen behind him flashed his name. The audience cheered, then fell quiet. Ramon bowed slightly. "What's your name?" Howie asked. "Ramon, sir." "And where are you from?" "The Philippines." Simon tilted his head. "Tell me about your act." Ramon swallowed. "I sing, like Elvis Presley." A few chuckles rippled through the audience. Simon raised an eyebrow. "Elvis, huh?" "Yes, sir." "And why AGT?" Ramon hesitated. His voice cracked. "Because this is the biggest stage. And when you lose everything, you need the biggest miracle." The room shifted. Simon leaned back. "All right, Ramon. Whenever you're ready." The music began. A slow, haunting piano intro. Ramon closed his eyes. The first note left his mouth, and the room froze. It wasn't an impression. It wasn't a gimmick. It was soul. His voice carried pain and tenderness, grit and grace. Decades of loss poured into every line. When he sang, the years vanished. The janitor disappeared. The widower healed. By the second verse, Sophia's smile had faded into something deeper. By the chorus, Heidi's eyes filled with tears. Simon wasn't smiling, but he wasn't blinking either. Ramon stepped forward, hands shaking, voice rising. The song swelled, and so did something in the room. The audience leaned in, breath held. He reached the climax, and held the final note longer than anyone expected. To silence, then an eruption. The audience leapt to their feet. People screamed. Applause crashed like thunder. Ramon stood there, stunned, breathless, as if the world had just woken him from a dream. Simon stood as the last judge to stand. That's when Ramon broke. How old are you? Simon asked. 47. What do you do back home? I clean buildings. And why Elvis? Ramon smiled through tears. Because even broken people can be beautiful. Simon nodded slowly. You didn't just sing like Elvis. You reminded us why music matters. Howie wiped his face. This is why this show exists. Sophia stood. Your voice carries kindness. Heidi pressed her hand to her heart. Then something unbelievable happened as Simon turned toward the golden buzzer. Ramon's eyes widened. His knees buckled. You came here thinking this was your last chance, Simon said. I think this is your first. Smash! Golden confetti exploded from above, raining down like redemption. Ramon collapsed to his knees, sobbing as the crowd roared. Somewhere backstage, his son watched on a screen, tears streaming down his face. Later that night, offstage, Ramon opened his suitcase. He found the note again. Make them listen, Papa. He smiled. They listened. He whispered. Ramon didn't win AGT, but he won something bigger. He went home to a hero's welcome. He paid off his debts. Built a small music school in Cebu. Sang to children who dreamed too loudly to be ignored. His son stood beside him on stage for the first time, proud and unafraid, and every time Ramon sings Elvis now, he adds something new.